see if I can find it. View and float on top. Yeah, we like that one. Sorry, everybody. Going to be with you here in a second. Yep. So, 4.3, aquatic food production systems. Voice is kind of going on me. It's allergy season, so it's just going to be interesting a little bit. Anyway, here we go. 4.3, aquatic food production systems. Figure 2, diagram showing the expanse of the Mississippi River Basin draining into the Gulf of Mexico. Yep, so that's basically the Gulf of Mexico because it all comes off of the Mississippi River, which has all these states that flow into it with all these water tributaries and whatnot. Yep, pretty cool. Yep, let's look at this here. Pie chart showing sources of nutrients delivered to the Gulf of Mexico. Corn, soybeans, other crops, pasture, urban, and that's for phosphorus and that's for nitrogen. So urban and population related sources, all that good stuff. Atmospheric deposition, natural land. So using figure 2b right there, state the source that has the highest contribution of phosphorus delivered to the Gulf of Mexico. And that one is going to be pasture. So, yep. Just if that helps you out, should be able to figure it out. But in case you need a little helping hand. All right, using figure 2A and 2B, outline 2 reasons why nutrient pollution in the Gulf of Mexico is difficult to manage. So you can always go about like non-point sources being difficult to trace because it's not like that one specific thing that you can point at. It's like broad and it's just a little bit. Also, there's many states that kind of go into this. If you're looking here, so many states, it's hard to manage a lot of states. Try to manage a lot of people in a classroom. It's not easy. A lot of these people are farmers. Are they going to really prioritize river health over food and farming and just money? That's another thing. Also, too, if you're a farmer way up here in Minnesota, what do you care about what's happening in the Gulf of Mexico? It's out of sight, out of mind. That's someone else's problem for a lot of people. So, yep. Also, to treat it, it's expensive and difficult. So, generally makes people want to quit before they even start. So, yep. All right, let's go down to the next question. Explain how nutrient pollution could impact aquatic food production in the Gulf of Mexico. Ooh, this all goes to eutrophication and then how it just kills the food cycle for us. So, with this one here, so you're a corn farmer, or soybean farmer, even better, in Iowa. You plant down fertilizer. All right, now a lot of that washes off in the Mississippi River, runs off to the Gulf of Mexico. Problem is that's going to start up an algae bloom, then it's going to start eutrophication, then drops, kills off. It's like lack of sunlight getting through, kills out the plants. And with plant death, it's going to reduce oxygen, have fish die. The result is if you're a fisherman down in the Gulf of Mexico, your fish intake is not going to be as good as it was. So, yep. All right, outline 2 management strategies to prevent the release of nutrient pollution into the Mississippi River. You can always plant buffer zones like wetlands. Our current administration in the United States just kind of damaged that a little bit by taking away the EPA's plan for it, and that you can build on wetlands. So, good luck with that. To prevent nutrient pollution in the Mississippi River. So wetlands are kind of like a buffer zone. They absorb quite a bit of that nutrient runoff that goes off into the water. You can also fertilize in the dry season, so there's less precipitation coming down and washing it away. You can use organic fertilizers, which are going to slowly break down, as opposed to that like boom shot of inorganic fertilizers or non-organic fertilizer. You can use drip irrigation instead of regular like irrigation. A, there's less water loss, but B, that there's less water used, and C, then there's less runoff because of it. So, yep, overall, pretty good experience. Let's get down to the notes here. All right. Aquatic ecosystems and food webs. Primary producers. All right, so what grows in the ocean is this phytoplankton. Super important. They're the baseline. They're this microscopic algae diatom dinoflagellate, right? Then you have macrophytes, visible aquatic plants. And you got cyanobacteria, blue-green algae, photosynthetic. But the real one, you're concentrating on the phytoplankton. Organisms perform photosynthesis in deep oceans. Chemosynthesis occur. That's for cyanobacteria. They float or are anchored and produce 99% of the ocean's productivity. Yep, so kind of important. Zooplankton come along and they eat the phytoplankton. And then the zooplankton get eaten. So plankton defined by drifting, not size, e.g. jellyfish. So marine ecosystems are highly stable and biodiverse. They take a large area of our Earth, so they better be. Freshwater ecosystems, heavily altered by human activity. Yep, why? Because they're closest to us. So organisms can be benthic, live on or in the bottom of water, all right, or they can be pelagic, float, swim in the upper water layers. So if you know the ocean, there's layers that fish live it and like live at, and they'll go up and down in that according to like different cycles, whether it's nighttime or whether it's daytime. So yep. All right, the aquatic organisms humans use. Humans harvest 2,370 wild aquatic species. Yep, meaning we eat them or we use them. So 624 aquatic aquaculture species. Yep, that means growing on kind of like a fish farm. So aquatic plants used: wild rice, Chinese water chestnut, Indian lotus, spinach, seaweed, green, brown, red algae. Yep. Uses of aquatic resources. By the way, up there, seaweed, I think I put up there, right? No, I didn't. Oh, yeah, seaweed. Yep. Seaweed, from what I've seen, is a great source of B12, which is hard to get outside of, if you're vegan and whatnot, it's hard to get. So, uses of aquatic resources. Fish equal 15% of global animal protein. 50% in Japan. And you're on an island. You don't have a lot of land, so guess what? You're going to be farming them blue acres. Yep, going out there and grabbing some fish. 25% of the fish catch used in fish meal, oil for livestock, farm fish. Yeah, so like the parts of the fish that we don't eat, we still use. We actually feed it off or use it for fertilizer. So yep. Fish oil, omega-3 support brain, eye, heart health. I'll give you a little bit of background. Last week, my Apple Watch was good enough to tell me that I had atrial fibrillation. So I get to go see my medical doctor, and I'm rather interested in these omega-3s now because I need to increase my HDL levels, which is the good cholesterol. My cholesterol levels are low, which sounds great until you realize that HDL cholesterol is actually necessary for heart function. So, yep. Gelatin. Used in cosmetics and medicine. Yep, we get that from fishies. Carotenoids. Reduce cancer, eye disease risk. Yep. So, yep. Chitin and chitosan. Used in drug delivery, tissue engineering, wound healing. Chitin also, I think, was used in M&M shells, too. But might have to ask RFK about that. Other aquatic uses. Glucosamine. Reduces inflammation. Glucosamine, yep. Antifreeze proteins prevent freezing in humans. Yep. Fish scales are used in cosmetics. So, yep. Beauty industry coming from fishies. Yep. All right. Algae. Fuel and food source. Nori spirulina dulce. Dulce. I don't know how to pronounce that, I'll be honest. Used in dyes, labs, and for antibacterial, antioxidant properties. So, yep. Demand for marine and freshwater food, steady increase in fish, seafood consumption per capita since 1961. Why? Because it's a lot easier to put a boat out there and go get fish than it is to really have land, take care of animals, that sort of thing. So, yep. And there's a lot. Humanity usually likes to live by a water source. So, another reason. Growth varies by region. China, Indonesia is up 34 to 44%. Yep. So a lot of their protein, a lot of their food comes from the ocean. Why? Because Animals on land take a lot of care, a lot of resources. So, in the Maldives, it's up 74%, which makes sense because they are islands. So, yep. Factors increasing human consumption of fish and seafood. Healthier dietary choices. All right. Trying to eat a lot more fish. All right. Just for heart health. Um, let's see some stuff that you should be concerned about, though. Try not to eat fish too much, especially if it's a sort of fish that really has heavy metals that go into it just for bioaccumulation, biomagnification reasons. All right, increase global wealth and food access. I could argue that one. But, like, actually, I would say that. Like, yeah, if you now have access to, your country has more access to power boats and fishing equipment, yeah, you're going to try using it to get more food. Improved aquaculture efficiency. So, yeah, we're getting better at fish farming. All right. Better distribution systems. Yep. Try refrigeration. Try ice. Try just keeping things frozen cold. All right. Yep. I've had sushi off in Iowa before, and no, it wasn't from the Mississippi River. So, um, yep. Let's see. More effective fishing techniques. Yep. Just flat out. We've gotten better at finding and catching fish. So, all right, fisheries, industrial farming, and hunting. First thing we should do is we should probably define these. All right, so page 395 or by other means. So 90% of activity in ocean, 10% in the freshwater. So, yeah, most of our fisheries or fish farming or even fish collection is saltwater. So most of the water in the world is saltwater. Harvest both shellfish and finfish. So your tilapias, your tuna, your salmon would fall into that category. So shellfish is more like oysters, clams, stuff like that. I love shellfish. I really do. Like oysters, clams, mussels. Not a big lobster guy. This employs 500 million people globally. 3 billion people get 20% of the protein from fish. Globally, about 15%. So, yep. Yep. Unsustainable wild fish industry. 90% of global marine fish stocks are fully overexploited. Yeah, right? So that means 90% we're taking more fish than are being reproduced. Yep. Total catch plateaued despite better technology. So the technology's gotten better. We should be able to catch more, but we're not. And that's kind of scary. So, destructive methods, bottom trawling. So that's where you just have a raker go right across the bottom. Totally just picks up everything in its path, destroys everything that's left behind, and really just makes the next generation coming up, a lot harder to survive. So, gill nets, less harmful if they're regulated. So, yep, just catch gill nets. I don't know about as much, but I might look into them with school. Purse seine nets, efficient but can trap non-targets. So that's the thing of it. Like that's what we call bycatch. We'll get into that down here. Dynamite fishing. It's illegal and destructive and rather nasty. Dynamite fishing. I might show a clip for. It's just if you look up Crocodile Dundee, like dynamite fishing, you'll see something. All right. Ghost fishing. Lost gear continues trapping wildlife. Yeah, so just nets that get caught, just drifting in the ocean. Yep, they still do their job. They still trap and drag you to the bottom. The future of the fishing industry. Global fish catch 90 to 95 million tons annually. Yeah. Bycatch is 38 million tons of unintended marine species. So yeah, they're looking to catch tuna. They're looking to catch, whatever they're out there trying to catch. But they catch other stuff in the nets. They're not going to be like, let them live. It's dead anyway. All right. Let's see here. Bycatch problems. Kills damaged non-target species. Yep. So bycatch is the stuff you catch that's not intended. Includes endangered animals, whales, dolphins, all of it. Yep. Harms corals, reefs, slow recovery, affects food webs. So, yep. Bycatch, once you start rating fish, you don't know, their role in the food chain. So they could be keystone species that you're getting rid of. So waterways, disputes over over fishing rights. Yeah, like rather nasty. By the way, my stepfather is a deep sea fisherman and sport fisherman, I should say, and he remembers as a kid, like, and this is during the Cold War, like Russian fishing boats, like motherships that just are here. Then they got little boats that go off from there, like only being a few miles off the U.S. coast. That is crazy to me. Like, we're talking a few miles. It's not even like double digits, I don't think. Like off the U.S. coast during the Cold War. So the idea where they can do that is crazy to me. All right. In the 1970s, Cod Wars, Iceland versus Britain. Rather nasty on that one. Then you had the British again, this time going after the French in the Bay of Biscay. Yeah. It's totally French area, I would think. So I'm not sure what the Brits are doing down there. But hey, they did. The Turbot War, Canada versus Spain over illegal trawling in the 1995. That one I don't know about, but maybe we'll look it up for class. So, all right, sustainable fish. Newfoundland cod fishery collapse. This was nasty because the amount of people that were employed and then weren't. So, and what do you do for a job, when everyone else is looking for a job? Recovery efforts were slow for it. So, key solutions. By the way, recovery efforts haven't been great for different reasons. I was off in like Nova Scotia on the northern part of it, which is still a ways from Newfoundland, but they talk about how the seal population up there is just, there's no predators, so the seals just go out there and eat up all the baby cod, basically. So, for what it's worth, yeah, just an alternative take on it. At least that's what someone was telling me. So, I might be messing that up, but all right. Marketable quotas, Iceland and New Zealand. Iceland's fish industry has actually been well managed, so they're kind of like the poster child for it. Marine reserves allow fish to breed and replenish. Yeah, marine reserves are kind of cool. So what it is, it's like an area, like a national park in the ocean where you can't fish or any of that. So like you can't have boats in there, no nothing. I mean, you can have maybe like boats go through there, but there's nothing that's a fishing boat getting in there. It's kind of like a safety zone for like for fish, basically. So this protects the ecosystem. So coral reefs, kelp forest, stuff like that, just allowing animals like another thing, a natural safe habitat to live, to thrive. Consumer action, choose sustainable options. Good fish guide. They actually have this at where I go grocery shopping, with the store that I'm at. So it tells you like the environmental impact on the fish. So, and it's not even like that hippie of a supermarket either that I go to. Avoid eating wild fish fed farmed farmed fish. So if you're getting like, I just try to avoid farmed fish anyway, generally. I need to do some research on shrimp farming, but generally wild farmed salmon to me is rather nasty. I like wild caught salmon. I just find it's a little bit more, just doing the research, I like it a little bit more. So, preserving fish stocks, policy tools, reduce bycatch. So, yeah, try to do what you can when you're fishing to just eliminate catching those fish that you don't want. So, smaller nets would probably help you out, create no-take zones. We just talked about that with marine reserves. Manage ecosystems for long-term gains. Don't look at short-term profits. Short-term profits are nice, but long-term, that's where the money is. So, need for accurate labeling to guide consumer choices. So, current fishing fleet equals double the sustainable capacity. Yeah. So, unfortunately, we need to start shifting away from that. So, example is the Patagonian toothfish recovered after anti-IUE efforts. So, yep. There's a huge chart on page 403 of what not to eat. All right, and we'll go over that in class, but I'm not going over it here. I'm not going to make you guys copy it. Maximum sustainable yield, MSY. So, MSY is the maximum amount of fish that can be harvested without reducing future stock. It represents a balance between catch and fish population growth. This must be managed to avoid overfishing and stock collapse. So, a species carrying capacity depends on its reproductive strategy, all right, its longevity and availability of natural resources in the habitat or the ecosystem. So, yep. Population dynamics. New individuals enter via birth or immigration, like coming from a different area. This, when you're in the ocean, you can travel wherever. A lot of fish, though, water temperature plays a big role in limiting them. So, if recruitment, new individuals are more than the losses, death, the population increases. So, yep, more coming in than going out. That's simple. If the population harvested equals the net increase, population size stays constant. So, yep, which is nice. The constant harvest level is the maximum sustainable yield. So, here you go. There's two formulas for MSY. So, biomass-based formula, which is the total biomass at the time, all right, over energy, decreasing the total biomass at time over energy. So, yeah. Alternative formula is the annual growth in recruitment minus the annual death in immigration. So, those coming in, those going out. So, in the real world, though, taking the MSY usually results in population decline. So, same thing for humanity. Usually, if you want a sustainable humanity, I think the number is 2.2 children per married couple or whatever. So, why? Because those two married people are going to die, and you'll need two to replace them. But usually, you have child mortality rates, so you need a little extra. So that's why the 2.2. All right. Climate change and ocean acidification. So climate change. Let's go up and down here and talk about this. Climate change causes the ocean warming, which leads to increased violent storms, but also to thermal expansion, sea level rising, melting ice, sea level rise, reducing salinity. The water is not as salty. So heat waves and ocean acidification as well. And reduced biodiversity. Many species can't adapt to the higher temperatures. Fish are really temperature dependent. They won't even, if you have a wall of water that's here and you got a predator right here, they won't go to the other side if it's just even a few degrees. So, yeah. They're just really, really, really temperature dependent with water. So, now the nice thing is water changes temperature very gradually. So, but fish don't change what they can do very gradually. Impacts human coastal communities. So 600 million people live within 10 miles, under 10 miles above the sea level. So, I'm sorry, under 10 meters, not miles. So that means within less than 10 meters above the sea level, all those 600 people live, 600 million. Half the world's megacities are coastal. Yeah, so, yep, warmer temps increase disease spread. Yep, I can tell you that from having my relatives live in Puerto Rico versus here in New England where we have winters and stuff freezes. Low-income countries depend heavily on fisheries. Oceans valued at 3 to 6 trillion per year in ecosystems and cultural services. So, yep, big time impact. Ocean acidification. The ocean pH is 8, slightly alkaline. Now what happens is that carbon dioxide forms carbonic acid in the water, or it washes off and comes down as acid rain and then washes off. And the more CO2 you have, the lower the pH is going to be. A 0.1 drop in pH is about 30% more acidity. The impact is fewer carbonate ions, harder for marine animals to form shells. This is a problem for shellfish. Remember, I love clams and I love oysters. So, corals and sea urchins. The plankton struggle to build skeletons. Food webs affected because of that. So, like, remember, plankton is like the primary ground level brick of that food chain. Without it, done. Fish reproduction declines as eggs are sensitive to pH. Coral growth may stop at pH 7.8, reducing storm protection and tourism, and also safety environment for fish. It does a lot more than just storm protection and tourism. So, mitigation of unsustainable exploitation, rights-based fishery management. Traditional system is first come, first serve. Come get it. Get it before your neighbor does. That is a problem because then it's like a bunch of fat people at a buffet. All right, like they just eat all the food and they leave nothing but the crummy remains left. So, rights-based, assigned quotas or times to individual communities. So, you just have certain spots like sharing basically. Usually involves people getting along though, and countries don't always get along. Balances economic and ecological needs. Example, New England's catch share for cod haddock. Yep. Depends on accurate stock data. Overestimate quotas equal and leads to overfishing. So, better underestimate than over. Fish subsidies often are harmful. They encourage overfishing by lowering cost, fuel, vessels, gear. So, remember what subsidies are. It's where the government pays into things to make things cheaper, like gasoline subsidies. And also too, it goes for green technology too, like solar panel subsidies are what really kind of put solar panels on houses. So, 1.5 times more fishing fleets exist than needed to meet the demand. So, it's unfortunately Darwinism a little bit. Some people got to go out of business. So, WTO Fisheries Agreement 2022 restricts subsidies and overfishing. This is what they're looking to do. Preserve oceans, protect coastal communities, encourage transparency, allow helpful subsidies, rebuilding stocks. So, ban subsidies for IUU, illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. So, regulations. Net size is a major help. Get rid of smaller nets, and guess what? They're not as effective. So, ban fishing in international waters. Ooh, this is effective if properly managed. It's hard to enforce because it's international waters. It's like a free-for-all zone. So, in 2017, 9 nations banned fishing in 3 million kilometers of the Arctic Ocean. So, which is really pretty cool. 9 nations got together, and said, nope, no more fishing. Protect predator species. Predators, tuna regulate ecosystems. So, I actually do like tuna. But overfishing predators leads to prey overpopulation and algae blooms. So 1/3 of the shark species threatened by overfishing, bycatch, habitat loss. Also, too, great white sharks are threatened by killer whales as well. So they don't really need us killing them off as well. Traceable in food labeling. Labels help track fish from catch to consumer. Informed choices rely on trustworthy certificates and documentation. So, another one there. Marine protected areas, MPAs. Remember talking about marine reserves? Yeah. So, 15,000 MPAs, 7.5% of ocean. The target is 30% by 2030. At least that's what it was. So, Key features were high protection. Good enforcement. 10 plus years old, large and remote. Benefits are biodiversity increases by quite a bit, water purification and carbon capture as well. Act as an insurance and research area. Ooh, hadn't thought about that. So you might be able to take a look at those fish stocks there. Boost tourism, local economies, and fish spawning. So, yep. Fish and MPAs are larger and more resilient. So, yep. Why? Because they get to live longer. So, yep. All right, here we're going to talk about a little bit about aquaculture. Define aquaculture, page 411, or by other means. There's 494 species that are farmed globally. This chart, take it down. All right. So, number of species, examples: tilapia, great, river fish. But yep. Oh, love oysters and love clams. Wife loves, I can do scallops too, but, and mussels. Wife likes those. Shrimp. I've seen some stuff with shrimp farming that actually makes me wonder a little bit just about how sustainable it is, like in a good way. All right. Let's see. Sea cucumbers, sea urchins, I do not eat. I haven't had them yet. Maybe I would, but frogs, probably not likely. Soft-shelled turtles. Had a patient once that ate turtle. Yep, tortuga soup. So, anyway, aquaculture accounts for over 40% of global fish production. So, yeah, that means over 40% of your fish come from fish farms. So, China's 40% of all farmed fish. China loves some farmed fish. A lot of their fish, though, I think it's carp or catfish. So, sustainable methods use trimmings, poultry waste instead of fish meal. Ooh, that's a pretty cool way of doing that. So instead of giving your fish like fish meal, which is like wild caught dead fish parts, you're giving them like, poultry waste, which I would think would be chicken poop, but I could be off on that. Or trimmings, which is, I dare to think, might be like parts of processed animals. So, all right. Anyway, impacts: habitat loss, mangroves. So a lot of, sometimes what they do to create these fish farms is they take mangroves out of there and put fish farms in there. Pollution, disease, escaped genetically modified species. That's one problem you have with salmon. So, land-based marine algae farms. So, proposed solution to feed growing population. It's a high yield. It's 10 times faster than crops. So, also too, it's also looked at as like a biofuel as well. Rich in proteins and omega-3s, absorbs carbon and reduces fertilizer need. Challenge: sourcing carbon dioxide for algae ponds. So, yeah, getting CO2 for it. Productivity of aquatic systems. Productivity equals organic matter from phytoplankton. So, key factors are light. 0 to 80 meter depth is the ideal for that. Nutrients from the upwelling. Remember what upwelling is. That's where those cold waters with all the nutrients come up and rush up to the coast. So, yep. Where is it? Oh, yeah, temperature 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. So, ocean areas are surface, warm, poor nutrients. Yep, deep, cold, nutrient rich. Upwellings provide the nutrients, which is why great fishing usually happens there. The upwelling failures can collapse industries. Look at the Peruvian anchovy. I forget if it's El Nino or La Nina. It does a job on that. And whatever year that is, if you're a fisherman down there, don't even take the boat out. Keep it in the harbor. Go find work somewhere else because ain't nothing going to happen. Fish stocks and MSY management. So calculate the number of fish to catch needed. MSY, current fish stocks, plus the harvest rates as well. And you need cooperation between people. Maximum sustainable yield, which is the MSY assessment, and management. This is based on models, not actual counts. And you know how IB loves models. They actually like showing the limitations of models. That's usually one of their favorite questions to ask. So it's hard to estimate population sizes. It's based on past experience. So just fleets tend to overharvest. That's what they do. They're out there to catch fish. They're not out there to count fish. They're out there to catch more. So Reducing future productivity because they got to put food and money on the table right now. Fish populations are dynamic also. So when you catch a fish, it's not as if you're going to ask it, hey, how old are you? Hey, what's your sex? Are you a dude? Because if you are, you're coming in the boat. Oh, you're female? Oh, we'll put you back out. So, and different ones are different for that. I've heard lobstermen are actually pretty good about, they're like, oh, no, that's a female lobster. Throw her on back. That's next year's catch. So, disease can strike. Think about the avian flu. And so it can strike fish too. And it can do a number on them. So, using optimal sustainable yield is safer plus less effort than like taking into account the MSY and measuring and counting. The quota is weight of the catch, not the number. So it just gets to be a lot easier to determine. So, yep. Assessing fish stocks and monitoring catches. Fish stock assessments are essential for sustainable use. Let's get that down there. Fish stock assessments are, yep. This requires knowledge of population dynamics, movement, breeding, feeding, all that sort of stuff. Biology, ecology, environment, fishing and behavior, and economics. It uses mathematical models, statistics, and computer science. So yeah, they got it down to a science. It's like a pretty good algorithm that they got going on. The assessment is tagging and tracking, electronic tags, marking and recapturing fish. So when you send it out, are you going to get it back? The assessment models is surplus production models estimate annual surplus. So virtual population analysis uses historic data, stock size, mortality, which is death rate, and growth. Sorry, guys. Stats, where was I? Stats compare predictions with real data. So, yeah. The challenges with this are fish move in schools, making tracking difficult. So, yeah. Monitoring technology is costly and not always available. If you're in a low-income country, you're just happy to catch fish. You're not really looking to invest in technology that's going to make it so that you can't catch as many fish. Sorry, everybody. Hiccups there. All right. Okay, monitoring. So electronic e-monitoring. Cameras and sensors are installed on fishing boats. The advantages of this, it verifies log data and fish quantities. It tracks interactions with protected species, ensures fishers follow the rules, improves decision making over time. So, yep. That's the advantage of it. So, just with monitoring, people do a lot better when they're being monitored. It sucks to say, but even I do. Like if I know my boss, my principal is like coming down on me and holding me accountable, more likely to follow the rules. Recovery of overexploited species involves all earlier stages: rights-based management, subsidies, regulations, MPAs, labeling. Consumers play a role, big time, with purchasing power. Avoid big fish, tuna, marlin, shark. All right, I'm not a big fan of eating shark anyway. But hey, you do you. All right. Buy local seafood, stuff that hasn't been flown across the world. Chilean sea bass. I've never had it. It's just mostly I've heard it's great, but I've heard it's really bad. Like for it's been poached basically, and then like it's flown off across I'm on the other side of the world. I'm in the northern hemisphere, so yep, nope, never really wanted that. Choose wild fish wisely. Consider disease spread from farms. Yep. Use seafood guides or even apps. So good fish, seafood checks, stuff like that. Ask about sustainability at restaurants. Does make you look like a little bit of a pompous dweeb, but think about that when you're ordering seafood, or even before you go into the restaurant. Be like, just know what's going on. Prefer certified sustainable seafood. Influence others by example. I can tell you as a teacher, people don't listen to what you say, they watch what you do. So, yep. The Law of the Sea is adopted in 1982, enforced in 1994, signed by 150 countries. So, yep, this covers delimitation, all right, environmental control, marine research, economic, commercial activity, tech and dispute settlement. So, key rights for coastal states, or coastal states. You can also think about, like when they say coastal state, that's not the United States. It's like countries. So, control internal waters close to the shore. Control territorial waters up to 22 kilometers. Access to resources in exclusive economic zones, EEZ, up to 370 kilometers out. Yep. Must control pollution and marine research. So, continental shelf is an extension of land under the sea, productive for fisheries. 50% of ocean productivity occurs in 15% in the area. So, yep. Width varies, 0 kilometers, Chile, because their continental shelf is like right there, to 160 kilometers out, Siberian shelf. So, yep, it goes a ways out. If you've ever gone deep sea fishing, depending on where you went, it varies big time. I was deep sea fishing in Florida on my stepfather's father's boat. He was a charter captain, and I was deep sea fishing, and I could still see land. Yep, because the continental shelf is right there. When we go out here in New England off Connecticut, we go off Long Island. You're like 40 miles from land. So, yep, it goes a ways. And if you're in California, I think it's even farther out. I could be off on that, though. So, all right. Controversial harvesting, whaling. 1986, moratorium on commercial whaling due to overexploitation. Norway and Iceland continue under exceptions. Gotta be honest with you, with bioaccumulation, biomagnification, what are you doing even putting whale in your mouth? Like, that thing is more toxic than your ex on Facebook. But, I mean, like, hey, once again, people, you do you, all right? I've got no desire to eat whale, though. Also, too, a lot of the, like, toxins accumulate in blubber, and whales aren't exactly known for being skinny fellows, so. USA, full ban on marine mammal hunting, except indigenous traditional use, so that a few tribes can hunt seals in, like, a native way. But generally, no, okay? This falls under a little bit, remember how we talked about the cod fisheries, though, and about seals? So seals are a mammal, and if they're kind of limiting your cod fisheries, from lack of predators, just saying. Traditional dolphin hunting. Pilot whale. Oh, this is in the Faroe Islands. You want to see some nasty stuff? Look up Faroe Islands whale harvest, okay? And click on images. Pilot whales, white-sided dolphins. This is criticized globally in 2022, limit of 500 dolphins per year. I think they had, like, in the Faroe Islands, a tourist ship come into harbor, and it was debarking tourists as they were just, like, netting whales and bringing them in and just clubbing them and stabbing them and whatnot, and all the water was turning red. Not exactly the sort of thing you want your tourists to see. So, all right, everybody, hope that helps. Catch you all later. Bye.